The Nationals were on their way to meet the powerhouse New York Giants, led by their legendary manager, John McGraw, in the World Series.
This was John McGraw's greatest team. McGraw, the greatest manager in the history of baseball. This is his greatest team ever. They had won their 4th National League pennant in a row. This was a powerhouse team. 7 Hall of Famers in the starting lineup, all hitters. This was just a slugging crew that they were up against, and it was very much a David and Goliath story going into the World Series. Nobody gave the Senators any chance at all against this great New York Giants team.
In the opening game, Walter Johnson pitched against Giants starter Art Neff. Both pitches lasted 11 innings. In the top of the 12th, the Giants scored twice off of Johnson and won 4-3. The Nationals took 2 of the next 3 games with pitchers Tom Zachary and George Mogridge getting the wins. Johnson came back for Game 5, but suffered his second defeat of the series, giving up 13 hits in a 6-2 loss to New York.
He got pounded up in the Polo Grounds, up in New York, and it just now it's this great tragedy. Oh my gosh, Walter Johnson finally gets into a World Series, and he's going to be the GOAT. He's going to lose. He lost the World Series for the Washington. How terrible is this? This great man, great pitcher. And so this wonderful story had taken on a dark turn.
Facing elimination, the Nationals were down 3-2, and their best pitcher, Walter Johnson, would not pitch again. The situation looked hopeless.
But fate, as it does sometimes, had other things in store for the Washington Senators and for Walter Johnson. And Tom Zachary, terrific pitcher with the Senators, won Game 6, 2-1 game. So now there's going to be Game 7 of the World Series, which is always the most exciting of all sporting events because it doesn't come around very often. They flipped a coin and determined that the game would be played in Washington. So now you have the president coming out. Of course, it was Mrs. Coolidge that was the real baseball fan in the family. But the president, it was an election year, 1924. So the president was out at all the games in Washington, including the 7th game. You've got all of Congress there. Anybody who could get a ticket, who could find a way to get a hold of a ticket to that game is going to be at that 7th game.
In Game 7, the Nationals and Giants were tied 3-3 at the end of 8 innings. In the 9th, with the Nationals pitching staff depleted, Bucky Harris brought Walter Johnson back to the mound.
People later thought he brought in Walter Johnson in the 9th inning of that game out of sentiment. And of course, Harris said, hell, sentiment had absolutely nothing to do with it. I was out of pitchers. Who am I going to turn to? I've got Walter Johnson. That's why I brought him in.
With his gutsy pitching, Johnson held the Giants scoreless for 4 innings, getting the big strikeouts when it counted.
He struck out George Kelly, who had led the major leagues in RBIs that year with 138, twice with 2 men on base. The game on the line, and the tension in that stadium just must have been incredible. And in him, but he had, as Clark Griffith later put it, Walter Johnson had the heart of a lion.
And in the 12th inning of the 7th and deciding game, Earl McNeely, who was a substitute outfielder, basically a scrub for the Senators, in the game only because it had gone to extra innings, a guy who had only come to the plate 179 times through the course of the regular season, hit what was a routine ground ball right at Freddie Lindstrom, the Giants' third baseman. It struck a pebble, hopped over Freddie's head, and scored the winning run from second base. So the Senators had finally, at that point, won a World Championship.
Well, the Washington Post headline the next day, "City in Carnival," is the way they put it. And that went on all night, and it was just bedlam. It was just bedlam, and Washington exploded in celebration, almost as if the tension of that World Series and that game just exploded like you know, a cannon shot or something, and everybody got caught up in it, the whole city, and the police just, you know, stopped enforcing the traffic laws, and there was cars parked all over the sidewalks and cars with 20 people hanging off of them, just careening down the roads. Of course, it was Prohibition era, but I think there was lots of bathtub gin out that night to add to the celebration. The writer said that the armistice that ended World War I, that had taken place just 6 years earlier, said paled in comparison, that celebration paled in comparison to what the city went through the night of the 1924 World Series victory.